Okay, everybody, so this is going to be an exciting video. This will be much longer than our other videos because now we get to really learn, now that we have a foundational knowledge of the basics of Family Search, now we learn what do we do when we're on here. So I think it's common for somebody to get on here, look at their tree, whether it's a fan chart or descendancy or whatever, and say, okay, well, this looks pretty cool, but what do I do? I mean, when I want to do family history work, which leads to temple work, then how do I do it? So if we'll go to our fan chart, so this is me, this is my fan chart. Then the fan chart's nice because each generation it shows us dates of when that person lived. And so we want to find somebody who's like early to mid 1800s. So if you look at this whole generation, each one of these falls within that range of early to mid 1800s. And so this is a good place for me to start on my chart. So just look at the dates on your chart, find somebody who falls into that date. And so we're going to choose Henry Zachariah Benefield, and we'll go to his fan chart. So we click it, and you already know that puts him in the middle instead of me. So now that we're looking at his fan chart, then we're going to switch from the fan chart to descendancy. Okay, now descendancy, we want to see him and all of his descendants. And so we're going to go to 4 generations. And then if you notice, I don't have all the boxes clicked here. If we show all the boxes, then there's going to be a huge amount of stuff over here on the side where you see these blue boxes. So just select record hints, data problems, and spouses, and leave the rest of them blank for right now. Okay, so here's Henry Zachariah Benefield with all of his descendants. And as you can see, it's a long list because he lived quite a while ago. So as we start our session, we would want to be prayerful and just ask for guidance on what we should be doing that day. And as the Spirit directs us, then, we can choose any one of these. We could choose this and just kind of start at the top and work our way down. Or we can kind of scroll through and see, does somebody catch our eye? So I'm going to choose Armita C. Veazey. And so, as you know, we want to right click so that we can open in a new tab. That way I still have Henry Zachariah Benefield up here, but then see where she popped up over here. I can click on her. Now this takes me to her personal record. So this is the details portion. These tabs up here give me different views. So the details, the timeline, the sources, the memories, all of them will help me to get to know her. So once I've chosen somebody from back here on Descendancy, once I've decided this is where I want to go for today, then I want to take a few minutes and make sure that her dates and places are standardized. You know about that from our previous videos, but we want to make sure her record is clean and correct. So we quickly look at her birth date and place, her death date and place, and make sure that those are standardized. And if they're not, then you already know how to standardize them. So once we have the dates correct, then we just want to take a few minutes and get to know Armita. We don't want this person to be a stranger or just kind of seem like a name on a list. We want them to become a person to us. And so this details tab shows us information about her as far as when she was born and where, when she died and where she's buried. We can scroll down here and see where she lived. Her residences through her lifetime were in Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas. Was she married? Yes, we can see that she was married to one spouse, Josiah Pope Benefield, and they had 10 children. Here's a list of their children. And we could click on any one of these if we wanted to open them in a new tab. We would pull them up, and we can go to that person. And it's just the same as we were just looking at Armita's. It's, all the same things, just that information is about that person that we've clicked on. So I'm going to close that. I was just showing you that any one of these is clickable. Shows us her parents, shows us her parents' kids, which is why she shows up here. So this is her and her siblings. Anyway, so there's quite a bit of info here, and that just kind of helps us to start to get to know who is she. This little pencil will show us when their marriage took place, kind of the details about their marriage. So they got married in 1866 in Georgia. Anyway, so as we've gone through and taken a few minutes to get to know her from her details, we can go to her timeline. This is kind of fun because it shows from age 0 all the way to the end of her life at age 86, shows us the years and the ages when different life events happened for her. So we can see, for example, that she was married at age 17 to Josiah Pope Benefield. Anyway, so it's just kind of fun, again, to take time and really get to know her. Memories is fun because a lot of times there might be a picture, yep, and there is here. So we can just kind of take a look, and she starts to become a person to us. Sources is an important thing because the sources really start to act as proof that the information that we have about this person is correct and really undisputable. So she's got 10 sources. That's awesome. We want to have as many sources as we can to show that the information that we have in her record is correct. So you can see all these censuses. You can see records of her death in Texas. This is probably a picture of her headstone in Find a Grave. Anyway, so if we're taking time to get to know her, we could click through any of these sources and just kind of get to know her a little bit better. Once we feel like we know her a little bit, then the reason that we clicked on her, if you remember right back in Henry Zachariah Benefield's Descendancy, remember these blue boxes? So she had a blue box, which is why we chose her. And again, we could have chosen anyone with a blue box. That blue box is just Family Search saying, hey, there's a hint that there's a record that may have something to do with this person, so check it out. So that's why we clicked on her in the first place. And right over here, see that blue box? That's where we can see what it is that Family Search is trying to hint us toward. So we can click it, and then we're going to review and attach if it turns out to be her. If it's not a match, then we'll click this so that it doesn't keep giving that hint for somebody else or us later on to go back and look. We'll have already dealt with it. So one way or another, we're going to get rid of that blue box. So we're going to review and attach if it turns out to be right. So it's going to pull up, see how it pulled it up in a new link for us. So that's nice. Okay, so what happens here is it's showing, see how the screen is split down the middle? Everything on the right-hand side is the record that we already have. So again, if we go back to her, all this info that we have on her in Family Search, that's what's listed over here on the right side. So this is what we have. What's listed on the left side is this mystery person that Family Search thinks might be the same person, okay? So what we're trying to do here is figure out, is this the same person? And if so, we're going to attach it. Okay, so using our detective skills, we start looking, okay, Armida C. VZ, that's her maiden name. Her married name is Benefield. A.C. Bonifield. So pretty close, a little bit different spelling. The date, birth date of 1847 is pretty close to 1846. Now censuses can be a year off because the census tells the age of a person, and so their birth year can be estimated instead of accurate. So if the birth year is a year off, that's not too much to be super worried about. Other things match up. Let's scroll down and see, does her husband match? Let's see, Josiah Pope Benefield, born 1847. J.P. Bonifield, born 1848. So yeah, we have a pretty good match here. Children, remember they had 10. Over here we have 9. Let's see what their names look like. Okay, we got S.E. Bonifield in this mystery person. Her first daughter is Susan Elizabeth Benefield. So that's, again, SE and Susan Elizabeth. We're feeling pretty good about this. MD, born 1869. Mary Ann, born 1868. Good chance that's the same person. H.M. Bonifield, 1870. Henry Madison Benefield, 1869. So as we look through each one of these, we can see that they are very, very closely matched. So that's great. That means that we feel more and more confident that this is the right person. We can go back to this record. Remember, the Family Search is proposing to us that there's this 1880 census that it thinks might have her listed. So if we look at the census, then it just kind of gives us a little bit more of a visual of why the discrepancy, why Bonifield instead of Benefield, for example. Okay, so as we look at this handwritten record, we see the original record here with some nice handwriting, but then we also see where somebody has gone through and indexed it from a handwritten record to a typed data record that's searchable on the internet, and easier to read, obviously. And so here is Benenefield. However, when they indexed it, they thought that was an O. So easy mistake to make, but so that's why it says Bonifield here, whereas really the person that wrote it wrote Benefield. JP would be Josiah Pope. That's the head of household. And then his wife is AC, which you remember our person is Armida C. Benefield. And then as we look through their children, then those initials match up to their names. So that just helps us to really start feeling great that it is a match. If there was any doubt in our mind, see how the next name is Kite, K-I-G-H-T. That's the last name of the family that was either living in the same house or next door when this census taker was going around and writing down people's names. So if we go back to Henry Zachariah, remember this is his descendancy. Here's Josiah Pope Benefield with Armida C. Vesey. But see how their relatives are Kites, K-I-G-H-T, K-I-G-H-T. So we start feeling very confident that because the neighbors or people living in the same household were Kites, that this mystery person, A.C. Bonifield, is indeed Armida C. Benefield, or Vesey is her maiden name. And so once we're convinced that this is the same person, then we don't want to have two separate people in Family Search that are the same person. Imagine if I took the time to go through and do temple work for this person and somebody else took the time to do it for this person and it turns out to be the same. So we want to merge them together if it's right. If we can't convince ourselves that it is the same person, then we don't. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and attach because we feel like it is a match. Now, the good news is we feel the same about all of these. And so we can attach her husband, SE. Remember, we felt like that's Susan Elizabeth. So see where these arrows pop up. We're going to grab and drag that down here until this turns orange and then drop it. So now this is lined up with this side. So we can also attach here. MD, because they don't have any other kids, we know they have 10 kids, and because they couldn't have had somebody in 1869, it just seems way too coincidental. So I feel pretty strongly that MD is the same as Mary Ann. So we're going to drag that together and attach. Anyway, so each one of these we're just going to attach so we're getting rid of a blue box on every one of these. If we only did one of them, then as we went through Henry Zachariah's descendancy, we would find this same hint for every one of them. So once we're convinced that the family is right, then we go through and do each one of them individually. Now this Maddie Solima Benefield, she didn't have somebody over in this mystery family. She didn't have a match. That's okay, because she's already in our record. Remember, the right side is the record that we already have. So we're not losing this information. They didn't have it listed over here, but it's just fine for us because we already have her listed. So one by one, we attach each one of these. And so now when we go back to family tree, if you look, remember she had 10 sources, but now she has 11. That's because we attached that census. And so that 1880 census that we see here, that's the one that we just attached today. So if we, let's see, if we go back to where we started, which is Henry Zachariah Benefield's descendancy, and we find her, once Family Search kind of registers that we did that, then this blue box will go away. It'll be gone. And any blue boxes that we attached as part of her family, where we did all of those as a group, those will also go away. Anyway, so part of what we're doing when we go on to Family Search is cleaning up each person's individual record, making sure their names and dates and places are standardized. I shouldn't say names, their dates and places are standardized. Second thing we're doing is individually, one by one, we're getting to know them so that we can make sure that if there's any information about them that's maybe on Find a Grave or Ancestry.com, or these sources that we need to attach, that we understand who this person is and we can make their record more and more clear and undisputable. So we take time to get to know them. We're not in a hurry when we go through and do family history. We want to be accurate. And so we just take time with each person and do all we can to make sure that their record is solid and correct. We want to make sure that we attach any sources to them that we can that are correct, because the more sources they have, the more it makes them undisputable. They just become a rock solid person in our tree. But it also makes it to where if there's possible duplications of them floating around on Family Search, that we eliminate those one by one. So once we've made their record clean and undisputable, then we can bet that them on the other side of the veil will be able to come to us and help us to know what to do as far as temple work goes. So if we look at our job when we're doing Family Search as just making their record clean and as solid as possible, then that will open up the opportunity for them to guide us and know what to do as far as temple work goes. And so you can see if we do that one by one, where we were just looking at her, wherever she is, Armida CBZ, we would go through and look at each one of her kids, maybe her parents, maybe her siblings, and just make sure that each one of their records is clean. And, we're just kind of following, we're almost like a detective, right? So as we get to know each one of them, then we might be led to a Find a Grave source or an Ancestry.com source or whatever. But that's all we're doing, is just going through and looking at them, putting together these puzzle pieces of making sure that there's not a child missing. So for example, if there was a Find a Grave blue box, a potential source for that person, and we go on to Find a Grave and we find that there's an obituary and maybe there's a child listed in their obituary that's not listed in their family tree, then we need to use our detective skills to figure out, why is this child missing? A lot of times we need to add that person in because they just haven't been added onto the tree yet. Anyway, so again, we're just completing their record and making it as perfectly complete as we possibly can. That's our job. And if we do that, then their record becomes more and more undisputable, and the duplicating of work becomes less and less. anyway, so hopefully that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.